Hello everybody, my name is Alan, I'm from Sauber-Lab and today will be another video about Synology NAS. In this video specifically we're going to explain a little bit more about virtual machines inside the Synology NAS, how you can use these applications, what things that you need to have in mind in the order to use it, and what's the benefit for it. I'll tell one of the benefits. You can simulate any machine that you want. You can simulate Windows, Ubuntu server or Linux server, or either the Synology NAS system. In this way, any modification that you do, you can try it before it go for live. Otherwise, you can have a risk to compromise the security or at least to don't work the way that expect. It's kind of sandbox that you can do, try, validate, and that release for everyone. And also, these virtual machines don't work only with your Synology NAS, but if you have only a normal computer installed with DSM, you can do exactly the same. So, if you like this idea and want to learn a little bit more about it, we're gonna show in this video, but first of all, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribe for the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's understand a little bit more about it. Before we go to the computer and try to understand how I can install virtual machine in my Synology NAS, let's understand why I want to do it. It's simple. You have an option to run a Synology NAS DSM inside this virtual machine. It means that's one virtual machine inside your NAS, and because this NAS normally will be run 24/7, it means that will be always available. Also, you can make some trials to see if you're gonna work in the way that you expect. Suppose that you wanted to generate some specific configuration, look like group configuration or some applications, but you're not sure that this will work well. So the best way, you can try it in a sandbox. In this way, if you mess up with something, will not stop working for everyone. Suppose that you are in a company and you want to change some settings and you don't want that people that are working with that system stop to work. Or at least you don't want to come on weekends, or you don't want to make overtime to do these trials in the live configuration. So this one's really good. Also, imagine that you have one system or one application that only runs Ubuntu server, and then you want to install Ubuntu server to run that application. So in this way you can do it, and you can do a lot of other configurations. Protection, you can make snapshots and continue on. So let's come here in my computer and try to understand what the Synology NAS can offer for me. So here in the page of Synology NAS, they say that the application that you're going to install is Virtual Machine Manager, VMM, and that they have an option to install multi-platforms. Can be Windows, can be Linux, Red Hat, and either the DSM that you can install to make the trials. So how it's work? You can have sandbox applications, so you can run either the own Synology DSM, or you can run look like website applications or either mail service applications to see if it will work in the way that you expect. Also, you can have the DSM virtualization or have multiple users connect to look like cloud base. So if you go down here, they offer a security. You can define some snapshot depending on frequency. You can migrate for another computer or another system. In this way, all your tests is safe and you can recover it without any issue. Also, not affect the people that's working with your NAS to stop to work basically. Have this one in mind, I come here in my system. Here, this system is running in a normal computer, it's not a specific DSM, and here is a revision 7.1. I didn't need to update it because for most of my applications will work well, so I leave the old revision, but I can always update it. Here the application that you're going to install is the Virtual Machine Manager, and this basically only install it and empty. Only thing that I set up will be the storage. And this storage, how it's work, because I have only one volume, I will be able only to set up one volume. If I have more volumes, I can add here and add others volumes. But in my case, because I have only one hard drive and this hard drive is working with only one volume, I could not do it. Here I can come here in actions, edit it and modify it. I can have how much percentage that it will allow me to use and what's the name of the volume. If I have multiple systems, I can come here and manage multiple systems. In my case, I have only one, so they will not be able to add extra. So before we start to do any configuration, we need to understand network, how it's work. As default, they give my network. If I define any VLAN, they will look like a virtual network. This one's really good if I wanted to guarantee that one application don't communicate with others. So let's try to create one virtual LAN. I'll come here and put add, and here I will put next. Because I have only one interface, I can only select it, but you could potentially select that one network, one LAN will be for one application and other for other application. Here I will define the name, so we'll put VLAN, and I will put the number of VLAN 10. Can be any number, but normally I like to put 10, 20, 30, 40 and continue on, only for me to locate it what it's work. But potentially can put 1, 2, 3, 4 and continue. Now I put done, and now I have two networks. For this system, basically they understand that I have two different systems connect in this machine. I have one that is a bridge to my network card, and the second one is still a bridge for my network card, but they are insulated. If I use this VLAN, they will create alternative IP address for that VLAN according with your configuration. But in this case, we're not gonna focus too much in these VLANs. We're gonna focus more for default because I want that this application will have direct access for my external system. So I leave it this way. Here image, that's really important for you. You have few options of image that you can select. The first one is ISO file. Basically, if you come here, one example, in Ubuntu, I can download this image for Ubuntu, and I can come here and put add, and I can select from my computer or from my NAS. If I already have this image in my NAS, I can only come here and select where it's saved, but in my case I download my computer, so I can come here and put from computer, and I select it. What I'm gonna do if I put next, they will ask where I want to save it. Because I have only one storage, they will save in that only storage. They will say how much they will use for my space, and I put done. It means that they will upload all the image for my computer, and we start process it to get ready for me. They will check if the integrity is right, and then I can do whatever I want with this image. We're going to install it in a minute, but first let's come here to understand my disk image. This disk image, imagine that you already create an image or create a system and you migrate for another computer, and that in this way you can come here and add this image either for your computer or either for your NAS. It means that this disk will be your virtual disk for your system, and you can do some simulating your NAS and that's migrate for another NAS and only input it. Because I don't create anything yet, I cannot do this option at this stage, but you always can download already complete image and test it without needing to set up from zero. And in the end, what is interesting from this Synology NAS will be my DSM image. This DSM image means that I will simulate another Synology NAS inside my Synology NAS, principally if I want to do some trials with it. Imagine that I want to guarantee that my group permissions will work and that I don't want to disturb the rest of the users. Also, I wanted to add these group permissions to connect to my Google account or for my Microsoft to manage it. In this way, if I have Office 365, I can connect it, and that the authentication will be based on the email address from the company. And if they change the email address, they will have to change the login email in this case. So I'll come here and put add, and I can download for a computer, I can locate Synology NAS, but I can download the virtual machine as well. And here, if I put to download, they already download the latest one. If I wanted to download an old revision, I can always come here in my Synology and test. Suppose that my DSM is running revision 5 and I want to test it in revision 5. So I can select the old revision. But in my case, I want to do the latest one, so I'll download the latest one and put download. Here I put next, will be exactly the same process as before. I need to select where they want to save and put done. In this case, will take a little bit more time because they will download, they will process, check if everything's okay with this image, and that will allow you to install. So now when they are waiting to download, to process and do all these checks, we can come here in the protection. In the protection will be my snapshots or the policy of snapshots. I can define that some machines will make a snapshot once a day, once a week, and where they will save it. I can have a local snapshot, or if I have another system, this one is requiring a Pro version, I can replicate this one for another computer or another Synology NAS. In this case, if my system stops to work, I always have a second replicate remotely. I can select local, put next, and select which machines that I have. Because I don't have any machine, I cannot select it at the moment. So let's install our virtual machine, and that we can come here back to explain a little bit more about it. But anyway, only for you have an idea, you can have different policies. So you define a daily backup, they will do once a day. If you hourly, it's once an hour. Weekly, once a week. And here is the retention policy. Always I can modify it, but if I select once a day, they will have for 7 days, 4 weeks, and that's it. If I wanted to keep for months as well, I can select it. If I select once an hour, they will keep for 24 hours, 7 days, 4 weeks, and that's it. And if I select weekly, will be for 4 weeks, equivalent for 1 month. If I want to extend, I always can come here and would find that this backup will be longer or shorter. So have this one in mind, we come here in my image, and here they already appear health for my Ubuntu, and here already appear health for my DSM. So let's install first the DSM to see how it's working and what I can do. I come here in my virtual machine and I will start to create it. I'll put create, and that they will ask what kind of operating system that I'm running. Because I want to install first the Synology Virtual DSM, I can select it and put next. Now they will ask where I want to save. Because I have only one storage, as I defined before, I cannot select others, so I'll put next. And here will be what kind of size of image that I want, or what usage of your system I want. Different from Docker, this one you need to define, and that I will use up to that definition. If I want to use more, I can stop and modify it. So I will put the name of this image, Sauber-Lab, 1 CPU, 1 GB of RAM memory. Let's put 4 to simulate that I'm using a 920 DSM. And here I can put how priority is it. I will leave normal. If I want to put low or high, it means that normal, if my system starts to use more RAM or more CPU, do not allocate it. But if I put high, they will preference allocate that memory RAM or CPU for my virtual machine, and what rest will be used for my system. I can put some description, look like try or something, and I can put next. Here I decide what image that I want. Because I only download one, I can only use one, but if I have multiple images, I can select it. Here my virtual disk will be the capability of my disk. If I put 50 GB, it means that they allowed me to use up to 50 GB. If I leave it this way without come here in preference, they will already locate 50 GB of my space to this virtual machine. But in this case I don't want, I want to have a space reclaim. It means that they'll only use how much space that I'm using. If my installation is only 2 GB and I have a space of 50 GB, do not use all. They will only use these 5 GB. This is interesting to keep more space, but they will have a compromise. They will use more energy or will process more to guarantee that only these 5 GB will be used in my system. If space is not a problem, I suggest don't select this option, but if it's a problem, select it and they will use according from demand. Also, I can limit what's the speed. Imagine that I don't want to run with all my capacity, because potentially my hard drive will be full usage in this case. So I can limit how much speed that I have. As maximum value will be 0, and I can put as much as I want. In my case, I don't want to limit this speed, and put OK. Now I put next, and here's the network. Remember that I have 2 networks. I have my VLAN and my default network. As a default, they will have a bridge directly for my LAN connection, or I can have multiples. I can have VLAN 1, 2, 3, and continue on. If I don't select this option, they will be automatically defined for me by my router. If I put this one, I can select what kind of configuration. In my case, I want it to be automatic for my router, so we'll leave as a DHCP. Remember, if you leave this HCP and you don't configure it, potentially they can change because it's not a fixed IP address. If you need that machine be a fixed IP address, I suggest you to define it. Put OK, and here also I have not connect. It means that in this case they will not connect for any network and be isolate only the system. Be a little bit more tricky to work, but they will work well if I want to insulate for the network. So now put next. I want to restart. If I put last state, it means that if my system stop and restart, they will return for latest state. If I put no, they always will be off if I turn off or my system turn off, and yes will be always yes. So in my case I will put no and put next. Now I ask what users will have access for it. I can select group or users. In my case I will select only my Sauber-Lab to have access it and put next. Now they will have overview all the information that is there, and I put done. Because I'm using DSM, they will start to process all the information and get ready for me. In this case, they will give me the IP address for my system, but if you're using a virtual machine, not necessary that it will appear the IP address until they finish configure it. Because I select no, they will not auto start, so I need to right click and put power on. They will ask what license that I want to use. I will use my extended license because I have only one. If I want to purchase one or already purchase one to have multiple or cluster, I can come here and put online or enter license. In my case, I want to use the standard one. If you have a DSM normally installed on a computer, you will be able to run as a standard one. And I put next. They will ask what's the size of license because I'm using a free one. It's one maximum DSM. I cannot do multiple DSM running the same way. And I put next and done. Now they will start to process, and that's once that appear the IP address, it means that it's running. Also, I can see the status of this virtual machine. I can see how much disk that they're using, what kind of network that they're using, if they are selected as a high availability, and type of license that I'm using. So here I can come and create another machine. This other machine that I will create will be the Ubuntu. So I can come here and put create, and I will do exactly the same process, but I will select the type of image that I want. In my case will be Ubuntu Linux base, and I select Linux, put next. Now select my storage, exactly the same. I select the name, so it will be Ubuntu. How much RAM or how much CPUs that I want, I will put 4 GB of RAM as well. Here will be the type of video card. I can leave this one unless you have any reason to change it. The same thing, what's the priority for this machine? In my case, I will leave as a normal, and I put next. The size of storage, in my case, I will leave 50 GB and I'll put here in configuration. Because I'm using Linux, I have a little bit more information that I can define. I can define that it will simulate ID controller. I can define that it will be a SATA controller, or leave as an automatic virtual machine. In my case, I want to leave as a virtual machine and put the same option to space reclaim, to save space in my case. So I'll put OK, and I put next. Now the type of network that I want, if I want to insulate from this other one, I will select my VLAN, otherwise I can leave as a standard and put next. Now is the time that I will select the image that I want. In my case, because I only download one image, or I can browse in my Synology to find other image. Because I don't have other image, I will use this one. If I want to have additional images, I can do these additional images. Now I can select auto start. In my case, I will leave yes, only to make a little bit different, and the type of firmware that I want. They recommend choose legacy. If you want update firmware or BIOS start, you can put UEFI, but in my case I will put legacy, and I leave the same information as before. Virtual USB controller I can disable, enable. If I enable, I can mount some image. Suppose that I wanted to install everything in a USB drive. This USB needs to be physically connected to a Synology NAS, otherwise you're not going to be able to locate it. Now I can put next. They will ask exactly the same for you define what user that will have access. I can define user Sauber-Lab and put next, and it will have overview before I start. Because I select to auto restart, they will start my system automatically once that has been initially configured. As because I select yes, they will already power on and start to run. So we have two machines, that is great. If I come here in my overview, they will appear what's the virtual machines or what host that's connect and how many storage that is. So as a view, you can see what's going on and how much run memory it's using each one and how much up or down they're doing. So let's come here back from a virtual machine and start to configure this specific machine. So let's come here and connect for the IP 103. And here basically will be a new Synology NAS. I can start, I can define the names, will be Sauber-Lab, the same user, Sauber-Lab, and now I can put next. They will do exactly the same configuration or same steps that we'll need to do if you're running a new Synology NAS. So it'll be exactly the same. Now I come here and download all the informations or leave to download manually. In my case, I will put recommend and I put submit, and they will start to log in, everything will download all the systems, and soon I will have option to open it. I then can use my Synology Drive or Synology Office. I will say no thanks, no as well, and here basically is my new system. I can come here and install any pack the same way that I will do with a normal Synology NAS. I can install all the application the same way. If I come here in the packaging, can come here configuration and do different users, different updates, notifications, and continue on. In this way you can do all your trials and you don't be worried that in any modification will affect the users that you're using. So you can do a lot of trials as long as you want. If I come here back, I can do exactly the same for my Ubuntu. I can come here, connect it, and they will open the VSM, and here I can do all the installation the same way. So let's come here, close. And let's say that I want to protect my system. I can come here and put actions and take some snapshots. What means this snapshot will guarantee that in that specific stage they have a picture, and that if I want to recover it, it's really easy, you only put to recover. Now here in protection, I can configure it properly my protection. I put create, local networks, I can select my Synology NAS, put install, and here the type of the policy. Remember that I told daily, hourly. If I put daily, once a day they will do the download. I can put now. Retention, I can select what kind of retention that I want, and automatically they will create automatic snapshot. In this way you are protected. Other thing that's interesting, if you come here in log, they will appear all the information, all the log that you have. So in this way you can see what happened, what has been created, what has been deleted, when has been deleted, which user deleted it. So you know everything that happened. Here in settings you can define some availability, some cluster and other thing. The same thing that you can configure here in the cluster. In my case, I will not focus so much in this cluster because it's not the focus of the video, but if you are curious to know how you can configure a cluster with multiple Synology NAS, I will show you if you request it. In this way you know how to configure the different virtual machines to use for your needs. So you can have Ubuntu running, Windows running, and the DSM to run and do some trials before release for the people without affecting it. So if you like this video and think that was interesting, please don't forget to leave your like, consider subscribe for the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and see you next time. Bye!